So you've got time to look at social media, but you haven't got time to do 1 minute exercise. If you go to the gym or you run after work, that's not going to counteract 7 hours of sitting. If you're stuck in this outdated concept of bums on seats 5 days a week, then I think you're going to lose some good people or not attract them in the first place.
You really are selling a solution to a problem.
Absolutely. 40% of what we do is a habit. So if that's true, we're sort of sleepwalking through our lives.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sales Cadence Podcast. My name's Matt Sykes. How much time do you spend sitting down? It's a strange question to ask, right? And probably you might not necessarily know what the answer to that question is. Well, I certainly didn't until I met today's guest. Today's guest and joining me on the podcast is Floyd Sayers. Floyd is co-founder of Flowmotion. It's an organisation that designs and manufactures sit-stand desks. And this episode might just change your life. Now, the shift to home office working over the last few years certainly brings with it some advantages. You've got the flexibility to start early, you can finish late, you can avoid the commute. In fact, you could probably be far more productive due to the fact there's less distractions from some of your co-workers. However, there's also a downside of working in your home office, and that is the risk of becoming less active. On many occasions myself, I remember getting in the office first thing in the morning, leaving last thing at night, and because I wasn't distracted by anybody else, without realising it, I'd sat at my desk for hours. And it's that constant sitting down, that lack of mobility, which we're going to explore together with Floyd Sayers on today's episode. What you're going to hear is an awareness around some of those risks of a sedentary lifestyle. But more importantly, you're going to hear some of the things that you can do, some practical exercises that you can do whilst being in the office, be that at home office or, as importantly, working in the office in the centre of town or the city or wherever it is that you work with your colleagues. Now, I recorded the episode at Floyd's studio in the centre of Norwich, which is my home city. So you're going to hear a lot of background noise, but hopefully that won't put you off what is effectively a very, very interesting conversation. And stick around for the end as well, because what Floyd does do at the end of the podcast, the last 10 minutes, is Floyd taking me through some breathing and basic mobility techniques which you can do while standing in the office place or waiting for your kettle to boil or while you're waiting for the microwave to go ping. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Floyd Sayers of Flowmotion, and hopefully you're sitting comfortably. Floyd Sayers, welcome to the Sales Cadence Podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed for allowing us to meet in your amazing studio here in the centre of Norwich. So the Flowmotion Studio, as you'd expect, it's packed full of wonderful office furniture, funky chairs, but there's so much more to it than that. There's a whole load of art and there's a lot of greenery in this studio, Floyd. Why is that?
One of the things I'm fascinated by and interested in is just something called biophilic design, and that's where you create a space, and that can be at home or in the office, that ticks a few boxes. So natural light, artwork, acoustics is part of that, plants, obviously, greenery, and there's a few other things. And the idea behind that is that connects us with nature, bringing the outdoors in. This isn't a new concept, but I think there's been a lot more interest over the last couple of years, especially with COVID. People working from home, they want to create spaces that make them feel good, where they can turn up and literally just do their best work. So that's a big shout out for biophilic design, and we designed this around that.
It's an incredibly warming and welcoming place to do work in, so hats off to you for that. So question, just for the benefit of the listener, just give us 60 seconds introduction, if you like, to you and the business that you run.
So by default, I've become the face of the company. If I'm honest, Bev probably is 75% behind the scenes, doing all the work, doing so much. So
we should just say hello to Bev, by the way. Bev, hi.
Hello, hi.
She doesn't get enough credit, but there we go. So my role: design, content, marketing, social media, networking, workshops, and at the moment I'm promoting something called Flownomics, which is a new concept for us, and that's putting together all the ways you can improve your health and well-being, but the focus is on the workplace. How can you be literally 1% better every day.
It reminds me a lot of the Dave Brailsford marginal gains thing.
It does, it taps into that whole thing,
Yeah.
small marginal gains, and how that, sort of compound interest over the weeks, months, adds up to something big.
So look, this is going to be quite an interesting podcast in so much as what fascinates me about your business is, first and foremost, you are creating products for a market to go and benefit from. So let's call that selling. But of course, what intrigues me about your business is the aftercare sales, or even just the care that you put around the whole business philosophy. But before I go there, a question I've got to ask you, because I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, is if you take yourself right back to your earlier years, and I'm not entirely sure whether you're still at school or you've left school, but something would have happened, Floyd, in your life where you would have exchanged your time and your gift, whatever that might be, for cash. So do you remember what you were doing and where you were when you made your very first sale?
Yes, I was 14 and I worked in an off license, stacking the shelves 3 or 4 times a week after school, and I also had a newspaper around. So I just wanted to, I didn't want to rely on my parents even at an early age. We didn't get pocket money. So I just wanted to just go and earn some money. I don't even know what I did with it. Fireworks was a big thing. Sweets, I don't know. I can't even remember.
Was that just once a year, the fireworks? Or was that
yeah, but we used to, as soon as it was over, we used to start. We had a box, 3 friends, and every single spare penny we would find somewhere that would sell bangers or, fireworks. It was a big thing. So that was, I was earning money about the age of 14, just doing that.
Sounds like you've always been the person who wants to work for yourself rather than work for somebody else. Do you remember what was going on in your earlier years that created that? How come you became that kind of guy that doesn't want to work for the man, just wants to work for yourself? I
don't know, I've probably had about 10 jobs, and each job had different issues, different problems. Some of those places were quite toxic. Some places there was a lot of bullying going on. Other places you expected to be in at 8 and leave at 8. So I always just had this urge to just be my own boss. I don't really like being told what to do. Some of the projects I've worked on in publishing, you work with a big team, and if you're lucky, you have a great team around you, and that's fantastic. Other times, the team can be quite toxic. So I think, for me, culture is very important. So part of that was I just wanted to create my own company and my own culture. And I wanted to lead that by example. And I wanted people, that came and worked for us to be part of that culture, to add to it, to embrace it. And that was a driving force. Just being your own boss, where you could, it's down to you. And I like that edginess of running a business. Bev, not so much. But I thrive on that because it's challenging and, it just keeps you on your toes. That's the part I like about being, it crosses over, I suppose. There's a lot of entrepreneurial stuff in there. I like supporting other businesses. I like, networking with other businesses. I like learning off other businesses. And if I have a superpower, it's just that I'm curious. So I always want to be learning. How can this be better? How can I improve this? And that's been a driving force.
And you were able really then to find a place that would allow you to be that creative and that curious, I guess.
And unless you create your own space, you're always at the whims of the company, your boss, the culture, your colleagues, all of that. And that can impact on your mental health. If it's a toxic culture, you haven't got autonomy, you're not listened to, these things impact on your health and well-being, and your energy. So much of it comes down to how you manage your energy and what, and where you spend your time.
I guess that if there were any positives, and clearly very, very, very few of the pandemic experiences, whilst there will be people obviously like yourselves that had a huge awareness around culture and well-being in the workplace prior to that, what it's done really is just shine a light on a sort of a global stage on just how important that is now, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think there have been a lot of people that have suffered throughout that pandemic, a lot of people that have thrived. And I think coming out of that, it's a mixed picture with the way we're now working. There are some people that have got gone totally remote and they love it. Depending on your age and your circumstances, if you're a graduate, you'd want to be in the office, I'd imagine, 3-4 days a week.
You'd want to, wouldn't you? But it's interesting because what I pick up is something almost like the opposite, where I'd love to come and work for you, but don't expect me in the office. And of course, there is this feeling that, well, if you're not in the office and you're not socialising and communicating, then you're not learning some of those core life skills of communication and influence and empathy and all those kind of things. So it's a very unique situation we find ourselves in. Don't quite know what's going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years, but certainly interesting.
Yeah, and I think there's a conversation to be had. Treat people like adults. If you've got a 2-hour commute each way, does your bum really have to be on that seat 3 or 4 days a week? There's going to be stuff there that you can do from home. So there's an element of trust in this. Why employ somebody if you can't trust them to do the work? So I think for me, flexible working is the answer. Some companies now are stating when people come into work, and I think that's reasonable. So it's, say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're in the office, and then you have 2 days at work. I've looked into this a lot, and some surveys say that productivity has got better, and other surveys say it hasn't. So you unpack the data from the conversations that I've had. I think people will just, if you've got certain skills, I think you can cherry pick what you want to do, and if that's remote, there'll be work out there for you, and there'll be companies that will accept you with open arms. And if you want a hybrid way of working, the same. But I think if you're stuck in this outdated concept of bums on seats 5 days a week, then I think potentially you're going to lose some good people or not attract them in the first place.
Someone stops you in the street and says, "What do you do, Floyd?" What do you tell them?
An enabler, a guide, I suppose. I want to guide people down some areas where they're intrigued and they're curious, and then they go off and they just have their own journey. So if I talk about movement or breathing, I don't want to give people a prescriptive list of things to do. I'd like to introduce them to some concepts, tell them this stuff really works, it's backed by science, and then let them explore those concepts and hopefully develop something that works for them. So what works for me is not going to work for you or Bev or Avril. So there's a bit of education in there as well, just to highlight these things, which I think are so important, to bring some awareness, shine a spotlight, and then say, look, this is important. Go away, look into it, and put together a strategy, something that works for you. Simple, easy, fun, and repetitive. Those are the 4 key words.
So if I look around the studio at the moment, clearly, the thing that stands out the most, forgive the pun, are stand-up desks or sit-stand desks, as they're referred to. So what's the background behind why they are the sort of the main product within the business? So
for me, starting the business, getting a desk, using it day in, day out before we launched, I wanted to really understand what was going on. So most people go into an office, the habit is grab a coffee, there's a chair, sit down, there's a computer, and you could be stuck for 2 or 3 hours. Depending on the work, if it's engaging, you can get lost in the work. Time goes by, you haven't moved. So what we focus on is the desk brings you out of your headspace. You can set a timer, put the desk up, you can position the desk at different heights, so you can perch, so that gives you another posture. You can stand, another posture again. When you're standing, you're more engaged with your posture and what your body's doing. So it's much easier I can see you're moving side to side. People do. They sway, they sort of bend, they stretch. It's much easier to do that when you're standing. So sit-stand active working is the key for me. That was the inroad into all the other stuff that I now talk about. That was the starting point.
And that came predominantly off the back of the fact that you were, I'm going to use the word victim.
Yes.
Of spending quite a lot of your time...
Decades.
Sitting down, being sedentary,
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of the byproduct of that was ill health, right?
Yeah, neck pain, lower back pain, sciatica. I've had, most tight hips, stiffness.
But there's a lot of science talks about some significant illness as a consequence of living that kind of lifestyle, isn't there?
So there was a big heading that came out probably about 10 years ago where your desk is killing you, sitting is killing you. And, it was a big headline. Obviously, they went for these sort of, explosive headlines to grab attention. And I always thought, well, if that's the case, people in wheelchairs, they'd be, dropping like flies. It's not, you can't just take sitting in the office in isolation. You have to look at what else we're doing. 10 hours a day is the average sitting. Commuting, watching TV, playing video games, working is just part of that. So sedentary working has got links to diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, all sorts of things.
Even cancer, I think.
Even cancer, there are links there. So, well, what does that mean? That means that for me, if we can do more when we're in the office, then that's got to be a bonus. And I've now talked about this. What's the minimum you can do? If you're at work, I started off naively talking about, can you do 5 minutes every 40? And I soon realised, no way, people just laughed at me. So now I say, can you do a minute? Literally, can you do something every hour for a minute?
But that's so little.
I know, but that's where you have to start. Can you engage? Can you just sit quietly for a minute and breathe? Engage with your breathing. Can you stand and do chair sits? Again, going back to those things, make it easy. Maybe not so much fun, depending on what you're doing. Easy, repetitive, and I think you have to realise this stuff's important, because if you go to the gym or you run after work, that's not going to counteract 7 hours of sitting. It doesn't work like that. So my approach, and a lot of other people in this field, is short, sharp, little bursts, micro breaks. Again, we'll come on to that. Micro exercises, exercise snacks they're called, which is a great term, which says, I've got a minute here. I'm, making a coffee. Let me just do some calf raises or some chair sits for a minute. And that over time will produce results, which I'm hoping, we're talking about energy, but also productivity, improve your mental health, all sorts of pluses around that.
You really are selling a solution to a problem.
Absolutely.
100%. And I noticed when I was doing my sneaky due diligence I always do on my guests, that word problem is quite reinforced at the start of some of the pages that I was landing on, for all the right reasons, because you are drawing attention to that seriousness of a lack of movement. I remember seeing a quote on there which is, if you don't move, the body will become better at not moving. That's just a fabulous quote, isn't it? And that's a really hard-hitting line that I found there, and I thought, crikey, yes. It's so true.
Yes.
It sounds to me like anybody that's working, whether they're in the office space, whether that's at home or in a business somewhere, is your ideal client.
And that's the challenge, when we try to design these avatars.
It's too wide, right? Or it's very wide.
It's anybody in an office. I suppose if we dig down into that, certain age, like over 30, young people think, this is not for me. I'm young, I'm going to live forever. So I would say not so many customers in their 20s, but I think that's when you need to start building up these good habits and
100%.
not leave it till you're, 40s, 50s. But across the board, and people working from home, they're the ones that during the last 2 or 3 years, that's where our growth has been. People setting up home offices, investing in themselves. Sometimes they've had help. So 3 years ago, we were part of the Google intranet. So Google were giving all their employees £500 towards a home setup. So we approached them and said, this is what we do, sent them some stuff, and they, we had to jump through a few hoops, but so that was great for us, just having that on our list of clients.
First and foremost, you're selling a product that solves a problem, for sure. It's an e-commerce website. But what is really apparent when you land on your website is the amount of, I think I referred to it as after-sales care, but I've changed my mind, actually, because one of the great things about your organisation is, whilst of course you do want people to get the value from buying what you sell, people can just help themselves to helpful health-based information, can't they? And I think you wrap it around Flownomics. Is that correct? Do you want to describe what Flownomics is?
So I've been searching for a word. I always wanted to come up with a new word. Flownomics. So I thought ergonomics is a big part of what we do. Getting the right setup, the height of your monitor, how you position your wrists, your arms, how you stand, really important stuff. So that's the ergonomics bit. And then Flowmotion, I thought, well, when you're in the flow, it's a lovely feeling. You know, if you're doing some really interesting, deep work, you're in the flow, and you're really enjoying what you're doing. You're engaged with the work, and time just goes by, but in a nice way. You're not bored. So I thought, you know, there's something here. And then I went through, you know, it took 2 years to come up with that word, because I wanted it to just sum up what Flownomics is. Now, Flownomics it covers some of the things that we've touched on: moving, breathing, habits, cat naps, all these things. Now, if I said to you, what do you think about your staff having a 10 or 15 minute cat nap in the afternoon? What would you say to me?
I'm okay with that,
right.
In funny kind of, simply because I'm on the bus, right? I understand the benefits that come with it. I've done a little bit of research into where are the places in the world where people live the longest. They tend to be in Italy. Is a great country for that, in certain areas of Italy.
Yes.
One of the key, and Spain, one of the key things that happens there is people take siestas and afternoon naps, power naps, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But more recently, I've noticed as well that even if you look at professional sports, so I don't know if you follow a particular team.
Spurs.
You're a Spurs fan. Well, that's the team I was going to talk about, because when Spurs built their new training complex, they put bedrooms in there.
I didn't know that, right.
Now, partly so that the team can sleep there before a match day on a Friday night, sleep there before the Saturday game, but also they insist that their players get afternoon shutdown time, whether that's a nap or whatever. So there's a huge. I'm on that page, so I'm okay with that.
That's good.
But I would imagine most organisations, if you said, "Can you find 20 minutes time for Matt to go and take a breather?" You'd probably laugh at you.
And I actually went into. I think we were visiting. It was an exhibition, and they had one of these amazing pods. And I know Google have got them. Amazon. They're amazing. They're sort of like an egg. You go in. It's all dark. There's music playing. Your feet stick out, but you're encased in this really warm, relaxing space. 10, 15 minutes, you come out supercharged. And this sort of ties in with some of the other research I've been doing. There's a concept where people, and you know, the scientists and certain writers, this is how they've worked, and they've been very productive. They literally work for 4 hours a day. But that work is super focused, it's super concentrated. Now, when you look at the graph, it's 90 minutes with a 20-minute rest. The brain needs, you know, it's using up a lot of energy. It needs to rest. So that seems to be the graph. 90 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you carry on for 4 hours. These are people that have written books and done amazing research and top of the game, you know, musicians. 4 hours a day. And that's been a pattern across a lot of
people. So sort of success leaves clues, doesn't it, to some extent?
You know, so my question is, how productive are we really? 7 or 8 hours, how productive are we in that time? And you know, I'm not saying you go and do a time and motion study on people, but within that time, there's lots of meetings and distractions and phone calls and chats and all sorts. How much of that time is super focused? If you've got all that work done, just imagine what you could do with the rest of the time. So that's interesting. There's a lot of research going on in that area.
2 years ago, I think people would have sort of frowned or been mildly perplexed at the 4-day working week. But I noticed it was on my local news channel last night, and it's just kind of, how long before this clearly is going to happen? Because it's just a bit of a no-brainer to some extent, which plays exactly into what you're talking about, Floyd. And of course, running along in parallel are those, I don't know if it's groundbreaking or not, but there are plenty of organisations out there that hire people and just say, get on with it. I don't care what time you start, what time you finish. Clearly, there's some metrics that you need to work in partnership with us, some agreements. Yeah. But if you do those, we don't really care how. Yeah. And I think that's quite bold, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's. I think that's the way forward. You have to trust people.
That's the key word I was thinking, because it can only exist in trust.
Yes, absolutely. My daughter has got her dream job for a company. I'll just give them a mention. They're called LV. They're in the femtech space. They have a 4-day week and then a 5-day week, and that alternates. So every other Friday, 2 weeks they have a Friday off. She can work from home. She can go to the London office. She can go to the Bristol office. They have Zoom meetings. They really embrace that whole way of working. And if they took that away, she would leave.
Yep.
You know, they did go through the 4-day week. They trialled it, and of course, everyone was on board. Now, if you want to work on that extra day, that's up to you. But, it's yours. They also have something which I loved, where they have 10 days a year where they're called like nerd days. They just, if you're not feeling well, if you've got something to do, a doctor's appointment, or you're preparing for your wedding, you can just take these days. It took a while to get a head around that, but it's there. And I think some people, if they're not, they'll phone in sick. Everybody's done that. You've got a hangover, you can't be bothered, you phone in sick. Everybody knows that there's really nothing wrong with you in a lot of the cases. But this gets around anybody having to do that. Yeah. Because if you're not feeling well, you've got it's genuine, whatever it may be, you just take one of those days, 10 days. So it's, they're doing some amazing, and there are lots of other companies like that, really pushing, because they want to look after their staff, they're genuine, and they're not paying lip service to this, which is, there's a lot of tick boxing.
There's a lot of window dressing
for sure going on.
I did ask you if you'd be very kind enough to prepare some stuff, because the listeners do like a little bit of advice, and obviously the advice on today's podcast, as you know, slightly different to usual, is more around health and self-care. So the first one was workplace habits, and I was staggered when I did my research last night to find out in a normal human's average life, and I think the average life expectancy is around about 83 years, something like that, in a male or female European adult. In that time, we can spend 18 years sitting down. Is that true?
Yes.
Blimey. Talk to me a little bit about the context around workplace habits. I know you shared a lot already, Floyd, but what's so important to you about that?
Well, I think all these other things, they can't work unless you look at your habits and your routines. I found it fascinating. There's so many different ways into this, so many strategies you can use. You go to work, there's a chair, everything has been designed for you to just sit down. We're not aware, we're not thinking of these habits, they're just ingrained in us. So start to question some of these things. We have to explore what it is we're actually doing. We have to be mindful. Now, there's some research to say that 40% of what we do is a habit. So if that's true, we're sort of sleepwalking through our lives. Some of those habits do not serve us well. So in the workplace, just start to look at your habits. What do you do at lunchtime? Do you go and get takeaway and have that at your desk? Well, why? Go for a walk. Get rid of all the snacks. That's another thing.
So what about if there's people listening to this who go, yeah, but that's easy for you to say, Floyd, but I work in an organisation where everyone's eating their lunch at their desk while they're still tapping away on their keyboards.
Well, then that's
a different question then, isn't it?
Well, it is a different question, and what choices do you have? Is it in your contract to say that you have to work through your lunch break? That's where we have to keep coming back to the reality of what's happening in people's lives. What are they going through?
Funny enough, they're all visual clues, aren't they, to what's going on in the culture in the organisation to some extent.
Yeah. So we have to explore our habits, things that serve us and things that don't, and slowly we have to start to get rid of the ones that don't bring us any benefit or joy.
Are there 2 or 3 positive habits that someone in a workplace should start to consider introducing?
Sit less, move more, engage with your breathing. There's research to say that we hold our breath unconsciously when we're working on the computer or sometimes on a Zoom call, or so that just happens. That's not good for us. So we have to just have those breaks, engage with our breathing, because it's so important, especially if if you've got a stressful job, you suffer with anxiety. Breathing is one of the key things to really sort of unpick that knot. So breathing, hydration. People don't drink enough. Yeah. Sometimes we're not aware until we're thirsty, and then it's too late. Yeah. So we have to. For me, I just have a water bottle and I just sip. And again, it's a habit. It's there. It's a visual cue. Hydration is so important for the spine.
Is it?
And yeah, absolutely. And when we sleep, there's a lot of processes going on where there's this sort of osmosis happening, where
that's our recovery time,
where the spine is being hydrated with fluids. So be properly hydrated, breathing, moving more, and group some habits together. So if you
That's good.
Say you look at your phone.
Yeah.
How often?
It depends what I'm doing.
Okay. What's the average? Where people are working, but they get a notification. How often do people look at their phones? Every hour, would you say?
I would say at least every hour for me.
Okay. For you. Other people, every 5-10 minutes? Maybe?
Could be.
Well then, if you look at your phone once an hour, group some habits around you looking at your phone. So look at your phone, or treat yourself after you've drank some water, done a little stretch, done a little walk. 3 things you've grouped together. Rest your eyes.
That's great advice.
And then the treat is you get to look at your phone. So eventually, so the cue is the phone. That sets off everything. And then you think, okay, phone's gone off. I'm just going to do these 3 things that I've grouped around that habit. And it's going to make it easier because you're then not thinking about it. It just becomes what you do. Every time you look at your phone, you have some water, you get up, do a stretch, and rest your eyes.
Fabulous, love that. Floyd, let's move on to number 2, which is the power of a micro break. We've talked about it a little bit, but what's the science behind, or what's the benefit about taking time out and shutting your eyes for a bit? Okay.
The micro break happens every hour. So that ties into, if anyone's familiar with the Pomodoro, time management techniques, that's where you break your day into Pomodoro time chunks.
Okay.
And with the Pomodoro, they have this Apple timer, but you can use your phone. We've got a little timer over there, set it for every 40 minutes, it's 45 minutes, it's on my desk. So I can do that, it goes off, and then we do something. So that's the micro break. Now,
this is not about hanging out, this is about breaking up what you're doing.
This is about breaking up every hour.
Got it.
Now, that micro break can be as short as 1 minute or as long as 5 minutes. It really depends what you want to do, what you're allowed to do. If you're working from home, it's probably not an issue. It's a habit you can get into. But you have to set something, and I think a sound is good because that breaks us out of what we're doing. Now, we can't ignore that. Some people just switch it off and go back to what they're doing. That's not the idea. It goes off, and then you just do one of these things that we talked about, the breathing thing, hydration, stretch, exercise. Those are the 4 things, I think, where we get value from, and we should be doing more of those things. So this is nothing I've invented. Pomodoro has been around for a long time, but I've just taken that and said we can use that. There's science behind this. So what's stopping you having that micro break?
Excellent. Number 3 was all about better breathing. This is a subject I'm so fascinated. I know nothing about it.
Okay.
So really interested to hear your take on how we can be better at breathing.
The breathing technique that I've learned is Qigong breathing. If we're feeling anxious or stressed, a lot of that tension is held in the stomach area. And breathing is an easy way to release that tension. Now, some people are chest breathers, some people are belly breathers, some can do both. So what we need to do is be mindful of our breathing, follow that journey into our chest, and then we take the breath deeper into our diaphragm.
Does it need to be down here to be more helpful? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's where we need to
so
take.
It's in the lower part of our abdomen rather than our top part of our chest.
We have to a lot of people, we have to relearn this stuff.
I think I'm going to have to. I just tried breathing there, Floyd, and I think, oh my days, I'm a chest breather. I'm a bad person.
No, but these are things we can learn. So Qigong breathing is what I've learned, because when we do it, we breathe, but there's also a bit of meditation, mindfulness going on. Most the Qigong exercise you practice standing up, so there's the posture thing. So for me, so much of what I've learned has fed into what I talk about. So just to get back to your original question about Flownomics. Flownomics has all these layers to it, and we just have to say, okay, that's interesting. I think I could potentially do that. Let me go away, look into it, do my own research, and see if it works for me.
Number 4 on your list of 5 is more movement.
More movement.
I'm there now. I kind of get this thing. But if you don't mind me sharing, one of the things I found on your website is this 42-42-42 approach.
Yeah.
Are you happy to share what that means?
Yeah, so again, when I was trying to work out if I was to give anyone some advice, what would that ratio be? It's a little bit of Pomodoro chunks, I think, are around about 30 minutes. when I was talking to people about doing, 5 minutes every hour, that was impossible. So I thought, okay, what about 40 minutes? Every 40 minutes you have a break, and then you do something for 2 minutes. That seemed achievable. I think that's quite a nice ratio of work, 45 minutes, and a 2-minute break. So that was my own take on, how to manage your time.
Of work,
40 minutes
and
of
then
work.
It's 2 minutes of healthy activity, whether
Yes.
it's breathing, it's hydrating,
Yes.
it's all of these things actually.
Yeah.
And then you're back to 40 minutes of
And
work
then you're
again.
back to
and
40
then you
minutes.
repeat.
And you repeat that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very good. And then the final thing was, and I think most people will understand why you improve your hydration, simply because of the things that you told us earlier, which is it's the source, if you like, that links everything together, isn't it?
It's so important, and it's one of the easiest things to do.
It is one of the easiest things to do, but it's one of the hardest things as well. If you don't make a habit.
No, that's right,
Yeah.
and that's exactly and I've realised that some of the things that look easy and we know are good for us are some of the hardest things to actually do. And again, it comes back to behaviour change and habits, and those we all know those. You join a gym in January and you stop going by end of March. So that's we have to build new healthy habits, and we have to be the architect of those habits. It can't be top down. I think we have to own that, and it has to work for us. And I think where people come in and they do a yoga workshop at lunchtime, that's brilliant. I'm not against that. That's great. But what's caused that company to think that their staff need somebody to come in and give them a yoga workshop? What else is going on? What's happening in that culture? So fix the culture first.
Floyd, I've really enjoyed the conversation today. It's been enlightening, fascinating. You've certainly poked me in a few places mentally about some of the areas that I absolutely am going to go and really start to work on again.
Great.
So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Quick fire questions before we finish. But before I do, can you just share with the listeners, where can they go to get some more of this really helpful stuff?
Website is flowmotionstudio.com, and we're on social media. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, that'd be great. If they want to find out more, it'd be nice to have a conversation. I can share Flownomics with you. We have an infographic chart. I'm happy to share that with you. And I just want to say just one thing. Sometimes people think the products are expensive, and sometimes, it can be. A desk and a chair, can be £1,500. That doesn't mean you can't engage with sit-stand working. I've seen people, and I've encouraged people to use cardboard boxes just to get the right height for their keyboard and their monitor. Okay, short term, brilliant, but you can feel what it's like to move, to stand. There are some desk risers which are about £80 on Amazon. I'm not scared to share this. It's out there.
No,
so there aren't any excuses why people can't engage with this active working. Not everybody out there is going to be a customer for us. So please just look into it. That's all I'd say. There can be nothing. A couple of cardboard boxes. You're set up. Make sure you tape them so you're not going to have any disasters with the computer falling off or anything like that. Desk risers, bamboo things that clip together. There are even things that you can take if you're going to work in a cafe or a coffee shop. That means you're not looking down at your screen, which is an issue. Digital use is an issue. Heads are heavy, so we have to try and maintain good posture, that balance. So every time we're looking down, that puts pressure on our neck and our shoulders. Just if you're interested, if you're curious, just see what's out there, and there'll be something out there for your budget. So I just want to get that in. Perfect.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. You know me well enough and what I do for a living, so I have no problem with the price thing. For me, the investment people make in any product or service, as long as the return on that investment outweighs the investment, then price is irrelevant.
Yeah.
What you sell here is something that is infinitely helpful. Well, I say infinitely helpful, but if you want to make some real lifestyle changes, then I think you are, to some extent, would be certainly naive to not invest some money, whether it is the cardboard box thing, the Amazon thing, or more importantly, come and see what's going on here. But Thanks for that. It's a really important point to share. And the reason I'm saying that is because while you were talking there, I kept thinking of Simon Sinek. And I know everyone's done the Simon Sinek thing kind of to death. But what you just described there actually is that golden circle. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And your why essentially is helping people improve their life. So I wouldn't be too worried about the price, my friend. It's
No.
kind of irrelevant. Okay, quick fire questions, and I'm afraid I'm going to drag you back in the world of sales because that's where
Yes,
I'm
of course.
Sales, science or art? Is it nature or is it nurture, in your opinion?
Well, I'll tell you what I've done. I've read your books, okay? I'll give you a shout out. They're brilliant because they cut through all the bullshit. You have to, it's training. You have to learn this stuff, but you also have to be comfortable. So I think one of the most important things you taught me was don't be afraid of sales. You're having a conversation. If you've got a solution to a problem, then you're helping people. And that way, for me, that reframed it, because meeting people, networking, they come up to you, oh, hi, what do you do? And you can see them scanning the room. If they're not engaging with you, they're just there to see whether they can sell you something. So I learned a lot. So I must say thank you for that. But yeah, we have to educate ourselves, and we have to read books, we have to train ourselves, we have to be comfortable, and we have to believe in what we're doing. I think, definitely, passionately believe in what we're doing, and that will come across.
A good friend of mine, Chris Murray, talks about standing on that box in Hyde Park Corner, telling a group of listeners who'll listen just how marvellous the next world will be. It's a little bit like that in sales, and it's for me, it's all about nurture first.
Yeah.
You've got to learn this thing.
Yeah.
But I guess those ones that, like you, Floyd, that are comfortable in your skin, that you've got something of value, and all you want to do is help people. That's where the nature bit comes in. Okay, happy to just share. Is there ever anywhere in your career, whether it's here at Flowmotion or before, your biggest ever sales win or victory? Do you remember that one where you punched the air?
Yeah, that was with a company. They're a large company in London. They're a trading company, energy. So you can imagine over the last 3 years, they've seen massive growth. They ordered initially 40 desks, probably at the time our biggest order in one go. So that was a punch the air moment.
Wow. And
as they grow, we've been growing with them. So we go and set them up every couple of months, and they have, another 10 desks. So that's been, normally for us, somebody buys a desk and they may buy a chair, they may buy a few things, but there's never a lot of repeat business. But with some of the clients we do have, we've grown with them, and so they come, they're happy with. We formed a relationship. They say we want these, and they're very demanding. And they say we want these in 2 weeks' time, and we'll do everything, to make sure it happens. So we look after them. And we've just built great relationships. So that was probably, that order was a punch of the air moment.
Got any advice, maybe one piece of advice that you'd give to anyone who's listening to this? Because quite a few of the people who've contacted me after they listened is, like, I've got a steady job, but I've always wanted to go and work for myself. Is there one piece of advice perhaps you could share? Yes,
definitely. And I'm mentoring somebody at the moment, and she's got this problem. So she's mid-30s. She's a master baker. Wants to transition to become a graphic designer. And my advice was, don't give up your day job, develop a side hustle. Test it, and not with friends, test it with real live customers. And do all the usual things, do your due diligence, see what the marketplace is, see who your competitors are, all this sort of stuff that you need to do to give yourself a chance. I don't know what the stats are. Most businesses, last time I looked, 70%, maybe even higher, of new businesses folded within 2 or 3 years. To me, that's that's pretty shocking.
Yeah, it is.
So you have to give yourself every chance. And if that side hustle takes a year or 2 years, maybe that's how long it has to take. But if it's not going to work, don't be afraid to park that and look at something else.
Yeah.
There'll always be, we all have hundreds of ideas, but it's the ones that you think, okay, if there's an idea that keeps coming back to you, that's like a niche, then I think that's worth exploring. or developing and testing it and seeing where it can get you. But yeah, keep your day job or go part-time so you've got the energy to develop your side hustle. That's the best case scenario, I think, where you've got a part-time job and you set aside 2 days to devote to that idea.
Floyd Sayers, thanks ever so much for joining the
Thank
podcast.
you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I get so engaged when I find organisations like Flowmotion and people like Floyd that are so passionate, not just about aligning the correct solution with the problem or the improvement that the buyer is looking for in terms of these sit-stand desks. I mean, they are engineered beautifully. They're a wonderful piece of art, I think, that you can have in your workspace. But more importantly for me, and what I get so enthusiastic about with Floyd is his passion for his work, but it's more about the aftercare that he can give to his clients. So once the sale's been made, it's what else can I do to help you? And so, if you go onto the Flowmotion website, you'll find there's a load of really helpful advice there to improve your mobility in the workspace. I've included some of that stuff in the show notes as well. So fabulous conversation, really enjoyed spending time with Floyd. Did promise at the start of the episode, you're about to go through a 10-minute exercise and breathing session with Floyd and myself. If you incorporate some or all of that into your daily working routine, then not only will you find real health benefits that come from it, I think you'll feel a lot better too. If you're leaving us here at this part, hey listen, thanks for listening. Everybody's in sales, we're all selling something. Go out and be your best, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Sales Cadence podcast. If you're staying here, get yourself ready. We're about to start breathing. So Floyd, what we're going to do, and for the benefit of the listeners that want to also join in with this, is you're going to take me through a 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes worth of activity, okay?
Yeah.
And you'll talk through exactly what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I'll try and engage as well if I can. And if you're listening and you want to get involved with this, then we'll try and make it as easy to understand so that you can perhaps have a go yourself.
Right, so just stand with your feet level with your hips and pointing straight towards you. And just bend your knees a little bit. So just feel that little bend. And what happens with your lower back, it just drops a little bit. Put one hand on your chest, one on your belly, and just breathe. Just naturally, nice and calm. Don't try and force it. I just want to see if you're a chest breather or a belly breather. So don't try and breathe in your belly if that's not natural. So just breathe normally, as you would. And which hand is moving more, would you say?
The top hand.
Okay, so you're a chest breather. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple mindful exercise, and we're going to just bring your hands down now by your side, just nice and relaxed. No tension anywhere in your shoulders. Head straight. Just tuck your chin in just a little bit. Okay. So we want to get that feeling, and they talk about it a lot in yoga, where there's that piece of invisible string pulling you up through your spine, through the top of your head. So it's a feeling of just elongation through the spine upwards. Just visualize that, because what we want to do, there's something called neutral posture, and I talk about it a lot when we're standing, when we're sitting. Just be aware of our posture. So there's no stress or strain when we're standing or sitting, and that's the goal. That's where we want to be. So how does that feel? Are you nice and relaxed?
Yes.
No tension in your shoulders? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a breath, and I want you to just breathe. Close your eyes for this. Breathe through the nose. Keep your mouth shut. And just follow that journey. The air, you can feel the air around your nostrils going up. Take a breath into your nose. Feel that, and then just breathe out. Nice and relaxed. That's what we're going to do for now. Just breathe into the nose and then gently out again. Now we're going to take that journey of the breath a little bit deeper. We're going to go up the nose, down, just around the throat area, and then back out again. Follow that journey with your mind. You get distracted and you start thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast. Just bring it back to the breath. Through the nose, throat, back out again. Follow that journey with your mind, and you should start feeling a little bit relaxed, a little bit loose. Next time you take the breath, follow that journey. Nose, throat, chest. Follow that journey back out from the chest, up through the throat and out through the nose. And now we're going to go deeper. So the next breath, same. Nose, throat, chest, and then just try and expand your belly. Just gently. Nice and relaxed. And then do that again. Nose, follow the journey with the mind. Throat, chest, belly. Nice, relaxed, and gentle. Just feel that expansion. Now the next breath I want you to do, and then when you breathe out, visualize that breath traveling up through your spine this time. Just visualize it. Breath, as it's leaving your body, it's traveling up through your spine and then out through your nose. Nice and relaxed, and just do that a few times. Just try and get that mental picture of that breath. So we're not trying to do a spine stretch or anything like that. We're just using that mental image of the breath traveling up through the spine. Now the next time you take a breath and you go into your belly, make it nice and relaxed and just try and feel that, your diaphragm. Nice and relaxed, no tension. Okay, so I just want you to relax and just bring your awareness back into the room and where you are. So we're just going to do a simple exercise. This is called the semi-supine position. So Matt, if you could, so I put a yoga mat down and I've got a yoga block. So if you could lie down, on your back,
Head on the block.
and put your head on the block. So bring your knees up. So Matt's got his knees up towards his hips. His knees are bent. He's got his hands relaxed by his side. I just want you to feel your spine just sinking into the floor, into the yoga mat. This exercise, the recommendation is that you practice this once a day for 15, 20 minutes. I think in a workspace, it's probably potentially too long unless you do it during a lunch break. But even a couple of minutes of this exercise is just very good for us. It's very good for our spine. It's very good for our breathing. So Matt, I want you to close your eyes again and just do that same routine that we did earlier. Everything goes through the nose, down to the throat, chest, diaphragm, lower belly expanding, and then you follow that journey up through the spine and out again. Arms relaxed, shoulders relaxed, body relaxed, hips relaxed, everything nice and loose. We're trying to engage with our bodies, with our posture. We're trying to be more mindful. We're trying to be more present. So this is the idea of the exercise. So nice and relaxed. If your mind wanders, and it will, just bring it back to the journey of that breath. Feel that air around your nose. Feel it going up into your nose, tickling your hairs. Feel that breath traveling into your chest, into your belly. Don't hold your breath, just let it flow, and visualize that breath going back up through your spine. And you may get a sense of just some expansion in your spine. It's a visual concept. We're not trying to force this. We're not trying to stretch our spines. We're just trying to engage with our bodies in a more meaningful way. If you watch a young baby breathing, this is so natural. They just have such a natural way of breathing and moving. And as we get older, we sort of forget all these intrinsic things that we're born with. So a lot of cases, we have to relearn these techniques all over again. And that goes with moving and also applies to our posture. Okay, so Matt, just slowly bring your mind back to where you are, what you're doing. I'm hoping that you're in a nice place, mindful, in the moment, and connected. And we're just going to go and do a body scan. I learnt this posture from doing Qigong, and this is how we stand. Just bend your knees slightly, not too much, just a little bend in the knees, just so you can feel that a bit of pressure off your lower back. shoulders, just take your shoulders up, round, and just do that a few times. Just rotate your shoulders and then do that again forwards, just to get some movement in your shoulder blades, just to feel if there's any tension in your neck. Don't forget we're breathing now. Keep breathing while you're doing this. Nice and slow, nice and naturally. Sometimes when we exercise, we totally forget about what our breathing is doing. So try and do these. If you're doing these rotation exercises, Matt is just literally rolling his shoulders forwards and backwards, engaging with his shoulder blades, and just feeling what parts of his body are doing. Okay, so just go up, settle. Now, nice and relaxed, arms by your side. So I just want you to just bounce a little bit, just like that. Just feel that bounce. Now that bounce again is something we do in Qigong. Sometimes we bounce for 20 minutes. What we're trying to do is just explore parts of our body where we're holding tension or it's a bit tight, and bouncing is one way to get into those nooks and crannies. Okay, so just bring that to a standstill, and we're just going to go through a body scan. So I just want you to keep on breathing, don't forget. Don't force it though, it's got to be nice and relaxed. Nice and loose. Follow the journey, and now I just want you to take your awareness to your neck and just try and engage with where your head is. Is it nice and relaxed? Is it balanced over your spine? Now I just want you to look to your left and then look to your right and just get some rotation there. You're starting to engage with your spine now, top half of your spine. Nice and relaxed. Keep breathing. Okay, so we're just using our awareness and our breathing. We're just doing a body scan, starting with the head and the neck. And now we did that earlier exercise with rotation of the shoulders. I just want you to travel down to your hips and just slowly just circle them just like this, round, nice and gently, go both ways. Just rotate the hips. Small circles, bigger circles. It is the hula hoop thing, which I could never crack. I was absolutely rubbish with that challenge. But just get some rotation in your hips. When we're sitting, we have, they call the hip flexors, lower back pain. Sometimes it's because you've got tight hip flexors, and sitting, that's what happens sometimes when you sit for too long. They get very tight, so we have to come up with some exercises to target these areas. Again, if you're interested, Google it, where these muscles are, see the link they have to the lower spine and to back issues, and then you can start putting together your own program to target these. There's some great stretches. That's great. Now we're going to go to the hands. Now hands are, I think hands and feet are neglected. So we're just going to stretch our fingers out and then slowly curl them in again, just nice and relaxed. And breathe. When you're breathing this time, I want you to breathe and feel that breath coming through, visualize it, and then coming out of your fingers. So take the breath in, and when you breathe out, almost as if you're breathing out through your fingertips. Nice and relaxed. And I just want you to pull your fingers one at a time into the middle of your palm. And just feel each time you do that, what's happening. Just become aware of, does it hurt? Is it painful? What does it feel like as you come out? One finger at a time, press it in. Okay, keep breathing. Now, just the wrists. I just want you to relax your fingers and just rotate your wrists round each way. Just try and get any movement into that wrist, just using a circular motion. Don't forget to do the other hand. Keep breathing as you're doing this. Bring your awareness to this part of the body that really just gets overlooked. Once or twice a day, these are things that you can do while you're sitting at your desk. Okay, so what we want to do again is just give these parts of our body some attention, and these are simple exercises you can do. And again, if you Google it, you'll see YouTube videos and infographics and all sorts of things. Because the other thing also is if we're working from home or maybe in the office, take your shoes off so you can actually do these exercises. Another nice one is just to get a tennis ball or a golf ball and put it underneath the soles of your feet and just massage the soles of your feet. Now, all of these exercises, as we alluded to earlier on, can take a minute. That's all you need. So if you say to me, and this happens all the time, I haven't got time, I'll just say to you, how many times do you look at your phone during the hour? So you've got time to look at social media, but you haven't got time to do 1 minute exercise. Right. How are you feeling?